compared to really popular RTS bows for 2021. And the first of this is the Drive NXT by PSE, and then we're going to shoot the Hoyt Torrex ready to hunt and kind of compare the two. So this is replacing the Drive 3B from PSE. It's a fairly different looking system compared to last year's model. It's a 33-inch axle to axle, so it's a little bit longer than the Hoyt model. Comes with the same features you'd expect on the Pro kits from PSE. You've got black mount and quiver that's got this really good kind of quick disconnect similar to the tight spot systems. You've got your micro adjust 5-pin sight, drop away rest, good quality stabilizer, no rubber tubing on the peak sight, all that kind of stuff too. So we're going to shoot a couple of arrows with this and see how it feels. So typical of PSE, the draw is incredibly smooth. One of the benefits of this bow is you have 10 turns in the limb bolts. So usually if you have a 70-pound bow, this is set around about 60 at the moment, you can get it down to kind of your mid-40s. So for someone, these bows are kind of aimed at someone's second bow or someone that's just starting archery. A lot of people struggle to pull 50 for the first time. Sometimes you get people who walk in that can pull 60 to 70 straight off the bat. Some people will struggle with 30. So PSE is good in that they can crank it all the way up to 70 eventually, but you can start around that low 40, 45 pound kind of mark. The draw stop's very good on this as well. It's not a limb stop, it is just a cable stop, but it feels quite solid. There's no give once you get back to full draw. It holds pretty well. I'd say it's probably a little bit floaty, but that's just given most of these hunting target bows, most of them are hunting oriented. 80% lot off will give you a little bit of float on the target, but the cable stops especially are very solid when you get back to full draw. Vibration doesn't really matter, but for those of you that like vibration, there isn't really much in this bow at all. Yeah, it just definitely feels like a probably higher end PSE than it actually is sitting in the market. So it's a big difference from the Stinger. When you go up from a Stinger to a Drive, this does feel a lot better. The Stinger can be a little bit kind of sluggish when you shoot it. This feels like a fast bow. It's coming in, I think it's between 320 to 330, so it is a little bit faster than the Stinger, but it feels, as far as kind of the feedback after the shot, similar to their higher end bows like the Supra, but obviously at a much cheaper price point. Accessories on it are pretty good. With drop away rest, you've got vertical and horizontal adjustment, which is really good on these PSE drop aways, because some of the others, like I'll show you on the Torrex, the basic ones like the quad just have a barrel you can move left to right, which will affect your vertical as well. So adjusting this is really easy. Same with your sight. The accessories on this are really good because you've got these toolless locking screws, and then you can just micro adjust the dials. A lot of other bows in this price range will have kind of your basic sights. You have to put in an Allen key, turn it to adjust when you're trying to move it up and down. Not a huge fan of the grip. It feels quite chunky on these, but you can remove this rubber grip as well. That rubber grip's going to be awesome if you're hunting, you pick up your bow in the morning. You're going to appreciate that a lot more than I will now. But as far as standing in the indoor range shooting it, I think I'd be ditching the rubber grips and just shooting it straight off the riser, similar to how the Hoyt risers feel. But yeah, I can't fault the accessories on it. The draw's good, the adjustment's good. 24 to 31, so a lot of bows will only go up to 30 inches, and quite commonly you'll get someone that's 30 and a half, and it really throws out their kind of price point bows. So this is good that it goes to that extra little bit of draw length, and again, like I was saying before, with the draw weight, there's a lot of room and a lot of play in there, so it'll fit most people looking for their first bow. So we'll go grab those arrows and we'll fire a few out of the Hoyt as well. So our next bow is the Hoyt Torrex in the Ready to Hunt kit. First thing you're going to notice about this bow is it is a lot harder to pull back than the PSE. You certainly have to work at it to get the bow back to full draw, which isn't always a bad thing. I think as a starting archer, people are going to struggle with this purely because it only has a 60 to 70 pound limit unless you're stocking multiple peak weights. So if someone gets a 40 to 50, 3 months later they're stronger, they're going to have to buy a whole other bow. So if you're starting off and you're struggling a bit with draw weight, you're either going to want to get this lighter with the aim to buy another bow down the track, or I think you're going to have to look at something different because it is quite hard to pull back. In saying that, you kind of you work a little bit harder to get the bow back, but it does feel a bit nicer at full draw. So the reaction after the shot is nicer. It tends to hold a little bit better than the PSE, a little bit less floaty. I like to use comparison with bows, as some people will talk about bows and say, oh, this one was great because it was really easy to draw, there was very little vibration. But in doing that, you're kind of sacrificing a little bit of performance as well. So you think about someone, in a race car, if they're sitting in a race car that's designed for performance, it's probably not as comfortable as, say, buying a RAV4 and sitting in the back for 2 hours driving around, but you're obviously going to get more performance out of the race car. Same with bows. I think people put too much emphasis on kind of the feel and, oh, that feels really nice, because you can make a really slow bow with 0 vibration and feels really good, but to get that performance you kind of have to put a little bit more effort into getting the bow back, and the Torrex definitely sits in that category. So that feels a lot snappier after the shot, a lot cleaner, kind of that feel that Hoyt's known for. Whereas the PSE feels awesome to get back, the stops are really good, but it just doesn't have that, that snap after the shot, I suppose. They're both going to shoot really good, but I kind of like that after-shot feeling that the Hoyt offers. It's meant to be the same speed as the drive, but it feels a lot faster, which again is just that after the shot feel. And this is the benefit of trying different bows when you first start. Shoot at least 2 different types, because you might find that if you can get this back, you really like that feeling, whereas the drive might be nicer because you feel like you can get more arrows into the session as well. Accessory wise, the sight is definitely lacking over what's on the drive. So this is just a basic 5-pin. And to adjust it, there's no micro adjust. You've got to stick an Allen key in and move it around to change anything. Whereas with the drive, like I was saying before, you've got that tools adjustment, so it's much, much easier to change. Quiver's pretty similar quality. You've got this kind of dovetail sight mount style thumb screw to just screw the quiver on and off. That's kind of cool. So quiver's fairly similar. Stabilizer and sling are pretty similar. And then with your rest, you've got a quad ultra rest on here. Now these are really, really popular. But the thing you'll find with these is when you try and adjust them, although they have horizontal and vertical, it's all adjusted by this one screw underneath. And to move it, you've got to just kind of slide the barrel in and out, which is really hard to kind of micro adjust anything. Whereas with the one on the drive, you can put an Allen key in and it is very similar features to the step up from this one, the quad HDX, that they have on the drive. The benefit of this though is you can preload it. So when you come back to full draw, obviously with the drop away, that rest will come up. With this, I can flick the lever on the back of the bow here, and that's going to preload my arrow up like that, which is really, really handy if you're walking around to have it already loaded. So that's another good feature of that rest over the PSE. So it's not that one's better than the other, it's just kind of pros and cons of each and what you think is going to be more beneficial to you. The other thing with the Torrex is it comes with a rubber tubing peep sight, whereas on the drive you've got a peep that's just straight in the string. Again, I'm not going to say one's better than the other. Some people hate the rubber tubes, some people like them. As a shop, I think the rubber tubes are really good for a first bow, because when you bought your first compound, often you have enough trouble just kind of learning to make sure you're not hitting the trigger when you're pulling it back, making sure you're drawing the bow back straight, all these other things to worry about, even just making sure you're looking through the peep every time without worrying about rotation. and most of the kind of mid-range bows, they tend to skimp on the string quality. These two are pretty good, but you'll find a lot of lower models, you'll get a heap of peak rotation. And one of the most frustrating things I've found for new archers is they struggle with these peaks moving around on the string. And obviously without a bow press, you can move the D-loop, but if it's doing a full rotation after 50, 60 shots, you've got to bring it back, get it into the press, twist it around to get it dialed in. Whereas with these rubber tubes, they're really good until your string has stopped stretching, and then at that point you can ditch that and put in a new peak. So I like the rubber tubings for the new archer, but they're obviously noisier, they can break, they can pull off. There's a whole lot of other stuff that can go wrong with them as well. But yeah, I don't think I can recommend one bow over the other. They both kind of sit in the market in different places. There's only $50 difference between the two as well. So if you're starting off, there's not a great price difference between them. So it's kind of which one's gonna feel nicest for you. But I definitely make sure you draw one back when you go into a shop to kind of feel you're comfortable with the weight as well, because this is a lot harder than the drive, and 60 pounds as a reading is not the same 60 pound on a Hoyt versus 60 pound on a PSE versus 60 on a Matthews. They all feel a little bit different to draw back. So definitely pull one off the wall and have a draw before you kind of decide what you're looking at. But accessories wise, I'd kind of say that the PSE wins. And feel wise, I'd go for the PSE, like ease to draw and ease to shoot. But performance wise, I'm going to go with the Torrex. So both are going to be a good starter. Get into your local bow shop and try them out. And both of these bows are available at elizaarchery.com.